Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is Dr. Shahana and we are discussing the pharmacy practice. The today's topic is the abnormal uterine bleeding. What is abnormal uterine bleeding? Usually 30 to 40 ml of the blood is lost from the menses. If this blood loss is very excessive and it exceeds 80 ml per period, it is considered as the abnormal uterine bleeding. In practice, it is defined by the woman's subjective assessment of the blood loss. It is the entirely assessment of the woman that is suffering from the abnormal uterine bleeding that she considers as a heavy menstrual bleeding. Amount of bleeding is exceed about 80 ml per period. This constant bleeding may be due to any other reason that need to be ruled out. There may be a psychological problem, there may be a depression, there may be other types of there may be an undiagnosed cancer. If this left untreated, the excessive blood loss will precipitate the iron deficiency anemia. This bleeding is the anti-bleeding that is not regular. There may be irregular menstrual flow, there may be intramenstrual spotting, there may be a postcoital bleeding, there may be a excessive heavy bleeding, or there may be an unpredictable bleeding. All comes under the definition of the abnormal uterine bleeding. If the person is suffering from this type of the postcoital bleeding, then she should refer to the gynecologist for the endometrial biopsy, especially if the age is exceeds from 40 years and the patient was using the intrauterine devices. Especially in in those scenarios, the cause should be ruled out. So these type of the abnormal bleeding may be linked with the depression, may be linked with the cancer, or it may be linked and it precipitate the iron deficiency anemia. Overall, the health of the person will compromised. Drug-induced abnormal uterine bleeding may be there if the patient is using the hormonal contraceptives. Here, cervical cytology should also be required. The hormonal contraceptive should be stopped. The World Health Organization recommends a 90-day reference period for a reporting of the vaginal bleeding. What is the age that is most effective? The age is about 25 to 44 years. Women are most effective in the UK. What are the reasons? What are the causes? Here we have three major causes that come into the three categories. Maybe there may be an underlying pelvic pathology, there may be a systemic disease, or there may be a dysfunctional uterine bleeding. These are summarized in these boxes. Pelvic pathologies are associated with the heavy menstruations, including myomas. This may be a fibroids. This may be common benign tumors of the myometrium. This may be endometriosis. This may be adenomyosis, that is the penetration of the endometrial tissue into the myometrium. So there may be a presence of certain endometrial polyps. There may be a polycystic ovary syndrome. There may be a endometrial carcinoma. The most of the time, endometrial cancer is typically seen in the post-menopausal women. However, it can be also diagnosed in the pre-menopausal women, in about 50% of the patient. If we talk about the systemic disease, there may be other hematological disorders like the bleeding due to the hypothyroidism, disorders due to the coagulation systems like and elevation of the endometrial levels of the plasminogen activator. There may be disease that is called as the SLE, which is the systemic lupus erythematosus, that also responsible for the abnormal uterine bleeding. Or there may be possible that the person may not suffer any type of systematic or pelvic pathological cycle, may have this type of the abnormal uterine bleeding. These persons are said to be a dysfunctional uterine bleeding and local uterine bleeding. Here the mechanism need to be ruled out. There may be a hyperplasia due to the influence of the estrogen. And the most important reason is the use of the intrauterine contraceptive devices that increases the menstrual blood loss. What is the pathophysiology of the abnormal uterine bleeding? Again, the prostaglandins are involved. There may be an evolution. There may be a hyperandrogenic condition. There may be a problem in hypothalamus. There may be a thyroid disease. There may be a primary pituitary disorder. There may be a premature ovarian failure. And some medications are there that lead to the anovulation, indirectly lead to the bleeding. These are some treatments. The first choice of the treatment is the use of the oral contraceptives, and we have discussed previously. These preparations are usually taken for 21 days, having a 7-day pill-free period, which is a placebo period, to allow for a withdrawal bleeding period. Then we have another choice is the progesterone-only preparations that use the 5 mg 3 times daily or 10 mg twice daily for half a cycle of the menstrual cycle. 10 days of the therapy is sufficient from day 15 of the cycle in the ovulatory cycles. If the cycles are anovulatory, then a minimum of 12-day therapy is more appropriate as compared to the 10-day cycle. One more thing should be noted that progesterone for 12 days are also required to prevent the endometrial hyperplasia in perimenopausal and postmenopausal women who are taking the estrogens. So usually due to this we have to go for the combined oral contraceptive. When the progesterone such as the norethindrosterone is used, the dosage requirement is higher than the use in the combination pills, and the adverse effects are also there. Then we have certain intrauterine progesterone only contraceptives. These are reserved for the IUCD devices. They typically release the 20 microgram of the levonorgestrel for the 24-hour period. They are more effective in case of the non-medical intrauterine devices. Previously, those devices have a more chance of increment of the blood loss. These devices have a dual action. They provide contraception as well as they have a very less side effects as compared to the oral contraceptives because of the local effects. Initially, the bleeding pattern may be disrupted, but then after that, it will be managed and regularized in the 3 further cycles. Then we have the choice of danazol that suppresses the pituitary ovarian axis. Side effects include the amenorrhea, hot flushes, sweating, change in the libido, vaginitis, and emotional lability. They have mainly the androgenic side effects, like they may cause acne, they may cause oily skin, growth of the hair, hirsutism, edema, weight gain, voice deepening, and the reduction in the breast size. It has to be taken daily. Then we have the gonadotropin releasing hormone, which is the gonadorelin. After the initial period of the stimulation, these agents suppresses the pituitary axis. As a result of this, they induces the hypoestrogenic state in the women. They cannot be used for more than 6-month period because they can decrease the trabecular bone density. Then we have the choice of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. They are used for the symptomatic treatments. They minutely slow down the bleedings. They are only taken for the first 3-4 days of the menses. Then we have the tranexamic acid. Prostaglandins having a main role in these problems, so NSAIDs are always be there. They are mostly, in this case especially, they are combined with the antifibrinolytics. What are the choices of treatment and which drug is for over the which drug? Initially, COC drugs are the very good drug in the reduction of the menstrual blood loss, but these are only effective when the women's contraception is also needed. Furthermore, it will be followed by the careful concentration of the therapy due to the various type of the adverse effects. Secondly, low dose phase progesterones are no longer treatment for the treatments of the heavy bleeding because they increase the blood loss in this situation. They may be of the value in those situations where the cycle is irregular. Long-acting progesterone render a woman amenorrheic. Gonadotropin releasing hormone analog can be used more than 6 period and they have a very severe side effect of the reduction in the bone mineral density that lead to the fractures. Then we have choices of the tamoxifen and or meloxifene, which is a modulator. SERM, a selective estrogen receptor modulator, 60 mg twice weekly. They are also successful to reduce the blood loss and increase the hemoglobin levels with a very few side effects. Just like the selective estrogen receptor modulator, we have selective progesterone receptor modulators like ulipristal that also a good pharmacological choice in such situation to decrease the uterine blood loss. The most important thing is that the women with heavy menstrual bleeding have a great endometrial fibrinolytic activity. Due to this, here the use of antifibrinolytic drugs are the drug of choice. The main treatment of the choice is the tranexamic acid. This is reserved especially in case of the emergency situation in which the blood loss is not stopped. So tranexamic acid is a very important drug. It is a synthetic derivative of amino acid lysine. It binds the 5-lysine binding site of the plasminogen. It inhibits the plasmin formation and displaces the plasminogen from the fibrin surface. It may also directly inhibit the plasmin and they partially inhibit the fibrinogenolysis at higher concentration. This is the mechanism. It has an effect on the plasminogen. It inhibits the formation of the plasmin, and when it inhibits the formation of the plasmin, it basically inhibits the resolution of the fibrin. It reduces the hemorrhages following the several types of procedure as well. So it is basically for the menorrhagia, for epistaxis, for the hereditary angioedema, and in case of the thrombolytic overdosage. It prevents the fibrinolysis. It can be given orally and IV by injection or infusions. What are the side effects? They are mostly GI side effects. There may be a hypersensitivity reactions, and there may be a disturbed blood regions. Dose dependent side effect, which may be due to its the extension of its pharmacological effect, is the formation of thrombus. So it can be easily prescribed to condition of the abnormal uterine bleeding. The recommended dose is about 1 gram 3 times daily, starting on the first day of the menses for up to 4 days. Most problematic thing is the unwanted thrombogenesis, but usually in practice for the 4-day duration, usually not observed. These drugs decreases the menstrual blood loss better than the NSAIDs and other luteal phase estrogens, so they are supposed to be preferred over the other drugs. However, the continuous and the chronic use is not recommended. Just like NSAIDs, if their effects are not reduced within 3 cycles, they has to be stopped. The abnormal uterine contraception devices also be there, and they basically reserved for the 5 years insertion. Long-term basis, we can go for these devices. The efficacy is too much high, that is, they are capable of reducing the 90% reduction in the menstrual blood loss after the 12 months of the use. So for the chronic bleeding problem, these drugs are preferred in those women where the conception is not required for the management of the long-term control of the heavy menstrual bleeding. Furthermore, they are more effective as compared to the oral treatment, but it is less effective with respect to hysterectomy. As per cost-effective procedure. The last traditional choice is the hysterectomy for the heavy periods, either with the laparoscopic or the open abdominal or vaginal approach. Newer alternatives are also there that are the alternative to hysterectomy, that includes the endometrial ablation. It is either be done by the electrosurgical laser, microwave, or any other thermal techniques. Endometrial ablation is less invasive than the hysterectomy, but recurrence of the heavy bleeding can occur and the amenorrhea cannot be guaranteed. Here we have to pre-treat the patient with the gonadotropin releasing hormone agonist before the ablation procedures. Why they are using? They initially activate the hypothalamic pituitary axis, then are followed by the suppression of the hypothalamic pituitary axis. It's causing the reduction in the levels of the circulating estrogen. Then the endometrial growth will not be stimulated, so that surgically they can be used for the ablation purpose. So this is the summary that we can manage abnormal uterine bleeding. If it is the anatomical causes of the bleeding, then other types of drugs can be tried. Like if there is a hypoprolactinemia, it will be managed with the cabergoline or bromocriptine. This is all about the treatment of the abnormal uterine bleeding. Thank you.